Welcome to our weekly program, Belahdan, a show with an accent for those without one. A lot of things coming on in the news here, locally, really. We have a press conference a couple of weeks ago. We have the U.S. District Attorney coming and telling us that Minneapolis or Minnesota has a terror recruiting problem. We have just, somebody was shot in Boston for just, I think, as far as I'm concerned, disagreeing with the government. Now, they connect him to ISIS after he was shot and dead. We have Black Lives Matter, been going on for a few years, with a lot of black men been shot by white policemen. Brutality, police brutality. Now, it is not just in Egypt, it's coming here. And you can see the connection between police brutality in Arab Spring and here in Black Lives Matter. We have here Congress, Keith Ellison. He is really, the most popular congressman on the talk show. Sunday morning cannot survive without him. Very popular now. Everybody's coming in to asking about what is wrong with the Muslims. He is responsible for $1.5 billion. Welcome to Belahdan. We're not going to ask you that question, what is wrong with Muslims, because it's very hard to say. But, let's get this out of the way. Do you really have to answer for every misbehaving idiots in the Muslim world?
No, I don't even try.
But you've been asked all the time. I think the last time somebody asked you, and it was even from, I think was it Atlantic, as a reporter, about ISIS, and
Sure.
Is ISIS an Islamic? What a question! Is ISIS an Islamic organization? And you have the beautiful answer: is as Islamic as KKK, as Christian, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't seem obvious even to a reporter that he is knowledgeable and you've been asked over and over to defend the misbehaving Muslims?
Well, I think that there's a certain amount of lack of information in the American scene about what Islam is. So people don't know. There's startling ignorance, and we don't really teach about it. So it's quite possible that you could be educated in an American public school and not know anything about Islam at all. And yet it's all around us. 1.5 billion people, maybe more, maybe a few less, but a lot of people. And but then there's many ways to be Muslim as there are to be people, right? The world now, the Western world, is becoming aware that there's some Sunni Muslims and there's some Shia. But I told them about some Sufi Muslims. They didn't know anything about those, and then they didn't know
the
about
Rumi and all of that.
Yeah, they didn't know about
that.
Yeah, they didn't know. Even though they know who Rumi is.
Yeah,
they know
they
Rumi.
make the connection.
They don't make the connection. So like Rumi a few years ago was the top-selling poet.
Yeah.
In America.
When I first came here, everybody was talking about the Rumis.
Yeah, but this is
this
is an Islamic poet of thousands of years ago, translated from another language.
What I love about one verse, I think I remember, he was talking about, when they make the flute, they make it from this, what do you call that, the reeds.
Yes.
And was asking why the reeds is sad. It has a very sad sound.
Sure.
And he said, after being cut off from the roots, he's longing to the roots.
Oh.
And he has a beautiful poem about
Great
that.
beauty.
It's a story of immigrants.
Well, sure, but also, just as so the world of the world. What is Islam? Well, it's as varied as all of humanity. And the truth is, if there's one definition of what it means to be human, it's to be complex. Right?
That's the key. Why they don't accept the fact that Islam is diverse and complex, and it's always simple. If a Somali, whatever, a youth, let's talk about the youth Somali, and you come and say we have a terror recruiting problem. Why can't we look at it as a complex, gangs? It's a problem. It's an American problem.
Well, why don't we talk about it in terms of inadequate support for public school kids who are low income from refugee immigrant families? I mean, we've been dealing with these kind of problems for hundreds of years. I mean, we're dealing with with Irish immigrants, with African Americans, Jewish immigrants. All of these people have gone through this gang sort of path.
Identity issue.
You know,
Look.
and then, you know, the thing is that if you abandon these kids, then somebody's going to pay attention to them, but their intentions might be very bad. You know what I mean? And,
Misguided.
right. So you got somebody who wants to lure young people in the wrong direction for whatever reason they might have. I think the real solution to all youth, including Somali youth, including all youth, is to make sure we have strong after-school program, make sure we have a curriculum which includes them, speaks to their story a little bit, and make sure we invest in our kids. And
I think you were quoted in The Guardian or whatever. I mean, when you comment about the relationship between economic development and the police brutality.
Oh, no question. Yeah, this is a very clear thing. So you remember Eric Garner, who was strangled to death in New York, in Staten Island, for selling loosie cigarettes. Now, what's a loosie cigarette? It's the cigarettes out of the pack, one at a time. Well, you don't sell loosie cigarettes on the street if you have a livable wage job, right?
It's not because you are cool.
No, it's because you are broke and
Poor.
you don't have any money.
Yeah.
And again, you know, Mike Brown, 18 years old, shot in Ferguson. You know, Ferguson is a city where the unemployment rate had doubled in the last 10 years. This is a city where you've seen cat factories close down and open up in Vietnam, Malaysia, China. This is a city where you've seen even the people who did have jobs, their wages have not increased. So this is an economically depressed city, and so yes, the police say, the people say, hey, get those guys from hanging on the corner.
So criminalizing poverty.
Absolutely.
We had a war with poverty and poverty won. Somebody said that, right? But you live in the suburb. I live in the suburb. I see also people, young white men, they do the same thing. They
Sure.
act not in the street.
Absolutely.
I woke up one morning and found my mailbox is knocked down and the trees are full of toilet paper.
Sure.
But they don't get shot.
Well, let me tell you, if I were to point out to you how many young white kids riot after losing an athletic content or having some school thing.
Breakdown proms, whatever.
Yeah. There's a college called Keene College. They overturned cars, set them on fire, all this stuff. Nobody gets shot. So
That's not right?
Well, I think...
It's called what?
Look, the reality is America has not reconciled itself to slavery, Jim Crow, and racism.
We spent 100 years with Jim Crow, segregation, slavery, and all of that.
No,
That's like 100 years ago.
246 years of slavery, ending in 1865. Another 100 years of Jim Crow, where they could tell you where to sit, where to go, what to do, where to live. Up until 1965, when the Voting Rights Act passed.
So we have another
100 from 1865 to 19. And then since that time, that's when we started to do something about it. My mother grew up in a segregated society. When she grew up in New Orleans, there was whites only signs. She can't drink here, can't drink there, can't do this, can't do that. So when I'm born in 63, that's when we start to begin the problem. And we still have never addressed the economic problem.
It's almost 60, 70 years now, but we still, black young man is about 9 times to be shot by a policeman than white. About 2 million, I think a million and a half young black men
in prison.
25 times to be, I think there was it's 25 times to be, most likely to be charged by what they call this, not misdemeanor, just
felony,
and those they can ruin your life. There is the
Oh, absolutely, it makes you unemployable. But the thing is,
you don't vote. You're not in the system.
We use in America. We use the criminal justice system to solve social problems because we have not said, okay, you're going to be part of our society. We're going to create employment, economic opportunity for you. We've said, well, no, what we're going to give you is limitations. And so, if you step out of line, you're going to go to prison, and we're going to have police patrolling your neighborhood to make sure that if you step out of line, we're going to be there to enforce the law harshly against you. I mean, but this is, I'm sorry, but it's hard to even blame the individual police officer. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they're hired to do a job, and they're sent into certain neighborhoods, not others, to enforce the law.
Law and order.
Yeah,
it's all about law and order.
Against certain people and not others. So, I mean, that's just basically
well, I mean,
the problem.
is it that like the people who go to police and select that career, which is a lot of work, underpaid, whatever the case.
Yeah.
There is also have the kind of prone to a certain attitude, a certain culture.
You know, I don't know.
A screening.
Let me tell you, Ahmed, I've done a lot of police in my life. I used to work in the criminal justice system myself as a lawyer.
That's when I first met you.
Right. And most of and overwhelmingly, the police I meet join the force to help people. They join the force because they want to do good by a community. But the problem is that if you're a nice officer who wants to help people, you can do a lot of good. But if you are a person who carries racial bias attitudes, you can do.
Would the system allow you?
It will allow
to do good.
It will allow you because let me just tell you, I mean, like myself, I live in North Minneapolis, which is not a suburb. And when the criminals broke into my house, I call the police. One time a woman was banging furiously on my door. She's running from her husband who's trying to beat her up. I call the police. I mean, and they come and they do respond. But the problem is that the discretion that police have is very wide. So if you have an officer who doesn't have good intentions,
doesn't understand the social
doesn't
issue.
understand it, doesn't want to understand it, looks down with contempt upon the people he's hired to protect, then nobody's going to stop that guy either, right? Remember when Rodney King in 1991 got beat on video, 4 officers were beating him, but 17 officers were standing around while it was happening. You understand? So my point is, there's a lot of officers who don't do wrong and would never dream of it, but there's no real system to weed out the ones who who violate people's rights and use excessive force. I mean, we pay out all these judgments from when people sue, and there's very little oversight or accountability. It's very hard to punish a police officer if they do something wrong, so you might have like 95 of them doing wonderful, good work, protecting people and serving the public, but it only takes a few, and those few do a lot of damage. And
I mean, the challenge is surmountable. It's a huge challenge, even for a good intention.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about, if you are a young black man,
mm-hmm.
it seems to me, in reality, on a daily basis, the stake is against you.
It could feel, well, having been a young black man, I could feel that way.
Right?
Yeah.
You go, it's against you. Street could be against you. If you have something happen in a police justice system, the jury is all white against you. So where else do you go?
Well, you know what? People have still got to do the best they can with what they have.
But they have to do more than the average white.
I would say that's true, yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, I think it's true, but it's still, you gotta work hard and do the best you can. Still can't quit. You still have to make the best out of a bad situation. You still have to. I mean, they can't stop you from going to college if you study hard. They can't stop you from working if you want to work hard. Now you say, is it harder? I believe it is, but is it impossible? No, it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
People do it every day.
Most people are average.
Yeah,
that's
true.
what average is.
That's what it is.
So we ask so much of the young black.
We
from
do.
The moment you wake up, the moment you go back to bed.
Well, I mean, let me just